Let's talk about how to pass the Credit Suisse video interview. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Read English here with another video to help you get hired. Today we're going to be talking about the Swiss banking giant Credit Suisse and how you can pass their interview. As ever, if you want more help to pass your interview with an up-to-date research note, courses, templates, worksheets and sample answers, make sure you check out the Credit Suisse Pass the Interview pack down in the interview below and join over 5,000 people who have taken our courses. Oh my God. So let's talk about how to pass the Credit Suisse video interview. If you've never seen a pass the interview video, we break this down into 3 parts. Part number 1, what's their recruitment process like? Part number 2, what are the most common questions that they are asked? And part number 3, what are the other questions that were asked in the Credit Suisse video interview? And I'm going to throw in a couple of sample answers in there that come straight out of our research notes so you can get an idea of the types of things that we're looking for. Let's jump right in and start off with part number 1. What's their recruitment process like? So all of our information comes from research from publicly available sources based on candidates who have taken the interview and been through the recruitment process in 2022. So you can be sure that you're getting the most up-to-date information possible. Well, unless your mate just took it last week, in which case he's probably more up-to-date than us. Anyway, so the recruitment process took about a month. There were 3 different parts of online testing after applying online. A verbal assessment, a numerical assessment, and a chat assess analysis. You'll then be invited to a face-to-face interview if successful. Some candidates reported being invited to a video interview. 2 rounds of face-to-face interviews, approximately 30 minutes per interview, or 4 to 6 questions per interview. The assessment centre depended on the role. There may be a super day comprising of group interviews. You could also have a transaction experience, a stock pitch, relative valuation methods, 3 statement operating models. Of course, it will vary based on the role. So that's what you can expect from the recruitment process. Let's talk about Credit Suisse's most common questions. So there were 6 questions that came up. Question number 1, why do you want to work for this company? So if you want an in-depth explanation of how to answer this question and a free worksheet, make sure you click the card up above. When talking about why do you want to work for this company, let's listen to a really nice sample answer from a research note. This is not about Credit Suisse, but this will give you an idea. You want to make sure it's specific and not generic and it's jam-packed full of facts. 4 to 6 will do. Here's an example. For over 30 years, Capita has provided innovative technology solutions to various clients from the government to businesses. From the start, Capita is driven by the core values of being open and ingenious, making it a market leader with a market capitalisation of over 600 million and £4 billion in annual revenue. The scale of the business is impressive, with more than 60,000 employees and operations around the world. At Capita, I would have the chance to work on a wide range of exciting projects. Now that's a fairly short answer to why you want to work for this company, and of course with Credit Suisse it would be different. But that does give you an idea about how jam-packed that sample answer is. And actually in our research note we give 3 sample answers for every question, and also how to write it and worksheets and all that kind of good stuff. Why are you best for this role? So this is very similar to why this role. If you want an in-depth explanation about how to answer this question and a free worksheet, make sure you click the card up above. Always think about answering this question in 2 parts. First part, what are you going to do? So just today I was taking somebody for an hourly call for a management consulting firm, and I said, why do you want to be a consultant? And he gave a really good answer. And what he basically says is, as a consultant, I would do this. And these are the skills that make me a good consultant. Why is that a good thing to do? Well, first of all, you want to kind of explain what the job is that you're going to be doing. Why, you ask? Surely they should understand that. I mean, it is their job after all. Well, because this may shock you, but sometimes people apply for jobs that they didn't even mean to apply to, or they've completely forgotten about. I don't know if you've ever got a call from somebody and they'll be like, oh, hi, is this Michael blah blah? I'm just calling to you to invite you for an interview for blah blah role. And I'm like, what role was that? Can you just tell me what company you're from? And I'm like checking through my email and trying to figure out who this person is. So this is a good opportunity for you to demonstrate that you kind of understand what would you do day to day. And then from the job description, you can pick that out, because the job description is literally a cheat code. Right? This is a really important thing to understand, and people miss this so often. Please don't be one of these people. A company will literally say, we want people who will do this and will have these skills. You then go there and go, hey, I can do this and these skills. And they're like, oh my God, this person is perfect. Literally because you read the job description. And then you can use the rest of your answer to outline 3 or 4 skills and say what you did that makes you good at those skills. I'm a really good photographer because my photos have appeared in a local gallery and been featured in the newspaper. Awesome. Well, that kind of gives me a standard, and I go, well, you must be good at that thing, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to do that stuff. Question number 3, tell me about the time you worked with a team. Now, whenever you get asked, there's a competency question, a skill-based question. Whenever you get asked this question, always think to yourself, why are they asking me this question? There's a really good way to think about any interview question at all, not just what should I answer, which is what most people think, but not you because you're watching this awesome video. You think, why are they asking me this question? This seems completely random. So they're asking you this because they want you to demonstrate that you know what good teamwork is and you know what being part of a team is. So good teamwork is like communication, helping, listening, interpersonal skills, doing your work, and so on and so forth. And if you don't know what good teamwork skills are, you could use this little known thing called Google and look it up. So when you're outlining your answer, you should use STAR, and that holds true for the rest of the competency questions, whatever you may get asked, or the other ones that we're going to cover, which is situation, task, action, result. All right? Situation, where were you? Task, what did you have to do? Action, what did you do? Result, what was the awesome thing that you did? The majority of your answers should be concentrated on your result, and that's where you throw in your little teamwork skills. You're like, oh, I communicated with this person and I interpersonal skilled with that person. That's not a real word, please don't use that. And I did my work here and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah? It's so important. If you do that, you will nail any competency question. The next question that comes to mind is you're like, well, what example should I use? Should I talk about last year when I went on holiday to Spain? No, you shouldn't, because that would be silly. So what you should do is that you should use examples which are as close to the real thing as possible. So if you've got examples from work, use that. If not, volunteering. If not, extracurricular activities, clubs and societies. If not, academics. Now, for those of you who are sitting there going, well, I only have academic experience, Mike, you're very mean, telling me I have no experience. I hate you. I hope that you don't hate me. What I would say to you is, you can use academic experience, that's fine, that's all you have. A little suggestion, if you're watching this video and you're a university graduate and you've only got academic experience, you'd probably go and do other things. It's going to be super helpful for you, particularly for this interview and just for life in general. So I advise that you go out and do that instead of going, oh my God, it's so unfair. Side note, done. Tell us about a challenge you had to overcome. Question 4. So a challenge should be something that is significant, right? A challenge should not be, oh, we ran out of milk and then I had to go to the shop, or the door wouldn't close and then I pushed it and then it closed. A challenge, in my mind, is something that needs multiple steps to solve something. So maybe you've got 3 different essays during a week, or maybe you failed something, or maybe your mum's coming over and you've got to do your job and also do an essay. Do you see what I did there? I was just talking about work essays and also mothers, who are a challenge in themselves. I'm just joking, I love you, Mum. What are your strengths and weaknesses? So this is quite a big question to answer. And obviously you want to have like, well, I've got loads of strengths and I haven't got any weaknesses. I'm basically perfect. Pick 2 or 3 strengths, pick them from the job description for the skills that they've asked you for. Doesn't really matter what they are as long as they're from the job description. Here's a tip, if they're at the top of the list, they're more important. If they're at the bottom of the list, they're less important, because otherwise I would have included them at the top. That's just like a little tip. Make sure you include some proof. So like, I'm really analytical because I've done this thing. So I am this because I have done that. Otherwise, it's just an opinion. I'm an excellent fisherman. Why? Because I think so. Maybe more opinion than fact. I would be a terrible fisherman. Weakness. So weakness is always really interesting, particularly with students. They're like, oh my God, I don't have any weaknesses. Or they're like, I've got too many weaknesses. I don't know which one I should use. Never fear, it's okay. So when you're trying to pick out your weaknesses, there's a few things to think about here. Number 1, pick a weakness that is believable. And I say this because very often people be like, I work too hard, I try too much, I struggle to say no, I'm a perfectionist. I genuinely have all of those weaknesses, but I think you don't want to give an answer that Fred and Susan and Steve are also giving, or some other generic name. But I always call everyone Fred and Susan and Steve when I make an example. So when you're picking out a weakness, I often pick out my weaknesses, which is time management and organization. Not great weaknesses to have as a founder, but I'm aware of those weaknesses and I put systems in place. A weakness is really just a lesson in progress. character building in action. So when you're trying to think about your weakness, what I really want you to think about is, well, I have in the past had problems with organization, and it could be said that is a weakness of mine. The reason why that's happened is once I had a client appointment which I completely missed, and I was absolutely mortified. The client was fine, but I felt like I really need to have a new system in place to be more organized. So therefore, what I did was I listed out all the tasks I had to do for the rest of the week, how much time I had to do them. I then categorized them so that I could batch certain tasks at certain times. I blocked out my calendar to stop anything else being booked in, and then I systematically worked through those tasks and saw if there were other members of the team who could help me with my organization and also taking some of that work off of my plate. So that's something that I have actually done as a weakness. So more just think about what's something that you're working on that you know you're not so good at and you could be better at. Question number 6, tell us about yourself. If you want an in-depth explanation to how to answer this question plus a free worksheet, you guessed it, click the card up above. So when talking about tell me about yourself, this is really a 6-part answer. So what are you doing now? What have you done in the last 3 to 5 years? What would you like to do in the future? What's your work experience? Extracurricular skills and hobbies, and finally, skills and interests. And if you want a bonus part, number 7, like a cool fact about yourself that makes people go, really? Like, I also enjoy collecting crocodiles. That would be amazing. Where would you put them? Anyway, so that's a really good way to think about it. If you have done no interviews, 0 interview prep, nada zilch, and you're just watching this and be like, I'd love to work for Credit Suisse, but I really don't have any idea what I'm doing. This is a great place to start. Definitely check out that personal intro, tell us about yourself, and refining that script will give you a really good foundation for preparing for the rest of your interviews. So, 2 other questions we came across which were interesting. Describe a time when you've had a difficult time with a colleague or stakeholder. Here's an example that we made earlier. In my previous job working in IT, I had to take over a troubled project from a colleague who had quit. In my first meeting with a customer, he walked into the room yelling. Ooh. He was angry because the software update that my colleague had been managing was a month behind schedule. I didn't interrupt him. I made notes of the issues he raised. When he finished, I told him I was going to address all his complaints. As I asked him questions about each issue, he started to calm down. While giving me more information. I went over the specific actions I was planning to take and get our top specialists working on the issues. I made sure to frequently update the customer on my progress. What I realised was that the customer had every right to be upset. The deadline he had been given was far too optimistic for such a complicated project. When I explained everything to the customer and what we were doing step by step, he was so relieved because he just wanted to know when the update was happening so that he could coordinate other parts of his business. It took us 1 week to solve all the problems and get the project back on track, but I was able to gain his trust back in our company. Also, the customer eventually apologised for his behaviour in our first meeting. So, resolving conflict is really just about listening to people. So, a difficult time, with a colleague, a stakeholder, a client, an angry customer, that sort of thing. When people are angry, they want to be heard. How can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you? Let's talk about. That has always been my experience with people who are angry. They'll be like, and then you listen to them and then they're like, well, this is actually what I'm really upset about. And very often, if this is well-founded, i.e. it's not a miscommunication or an unrealistic expectation, but it's really just like, oh wow, we said we would do X and we haven't done that, that's not cool. Then the next thing that we want to do, and really put yourself in the mind of somebody who is, say for example, you've ordered something from Amazon and it hasn't come, and you communicate with a supplier on Amazon and no one gets back to you. You get more upset. Now, literally, the same company could get back and say, do you know what, we're really sorry, we've actually run out of this, we're gonna get something to you and we'll put a little something extra in there, but it's gonna be a week. Really apologise. Now, chances are 9 times out of 10, you don't really care. You'll just be like, oh, okay, fine. But you're super happy because they've communicated. You're much happier than if in 7 days' time, the package arrives with a little something, but no one's told you because they've left you in the dark. So it's about communication. It's just about letting them know what's happening. And finally, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Obviously, at Credit Suisse, moving up the hierarchy, close to becoming director, partner, ruler of the universe. but not somewhere else doing something else, working on another business or traveling around the world. Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video about Credit Suisse. Let us know down in the comments below. How's your interview gone? How helpful was this video for your preparation? What could we do better? Don't say change the person who's presenting, because it's only me. And if you could add something, what would you do? Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you the best of luck with your Credit Suisse interview and then finding a job. Thank you for letting us serve you. See you later.